Good morning, everyone. This is John Shaw, the director of the Paul Simon Public Policy Institute at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. Thanks for joining another installment of our series, Understanding Our New World. And today we're delighted to be joined by our state senator from down here, Senator Dale Fowler. Senator Fowler represents the 59th Senate District, which comprises much of Southern Illinois. He has deep roots in the region, grew up in El Dorado, Illinois. We'll talk about that. Was lots of capacities working for the state government, Secretary of State, other offices. We'll talk about that. He's been a city commissioner, been a mayor of Harrisburg, has been on the county board of Saline County. And has been very active in civic affairs, was president of the United Way of Southern Illinois, helped create a foundation which provides clothing and shoes to low income children. Elected to the state senate in 2016, is a senior Republican on the education committee, higher education committee, is doing some really important work there, and has really developed, I think, an important reputation as someone who has a political perspective, but is willing to work with people from across the aisle to solve problems. Very well respected senator. So, Senator Fowler, great to see you again.
Oh, good to be with you, John. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate all the work that the Paul Simon Public Policy Institute does. Thank you so much.
Great. Well, tell us about growing up in El Dorado. I've read about your town. It's about 4,000. Tell us a little bit about what it was like to grow up there.
Actually, well, I guess when I was growing up there, it was about, I think it was a little over 5,200 people, So like a lot of small towns in Southern Illinois, the population's declined a little bit. But yeah, I was born and raised on a farm in El Dorado, about an 800-acre grain farm. And in the mid 70s, my father also purchased a meat packing company in El Dorado. And I learned to drive a tractor when I was about 13 years old. We did custom hay baling. I learned to work hard. I worked all summer long. And then I had an opportunity to also go to work in the meat packing plant as well, especially in the wintertime, before school, after school, played sports. Actually had an opportunity to take that company over when I was fairly young and ended up selling the company, actually. And that's when I got to work in state government.
Well, Senator, I was reading a little bit about the town, and I mean, just a couple kind of fun facts. Apparently, George Harrison, the Beatle, was in town. I think it was 1963, and like one of his first performances in the United States was in your community. Was that part of the legend of your town?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, they still have the stage at the American Legion building upstairs in the stage. They still have the stage that he performed on, his very first performance in the United States. So there was a ceremony actually last summer in his honor that they put a big plaque downtown El Dorado. So yeah, it's our claim to fame for sure.
And then there was also a novel written based, I think, in your town called Murder in Little Egypt. I haven't yet read it. I'd like to. Is it something that people refer to occasionally, or?
Absolutely. It's about Dr. John Cavness, and he was actually my doctor when I was very young. And I've read the book, and I've actually read it over again just not too long ago, and it's really interesting read, especially when you're reading a book that I know the people within the book and can relate to what that whole story, and that was just devastating to our community. But yes, it's a very good read. I encourage anyone to read Murder in Little Egypt. It's a great book.
Great. Well, we were talking offline that you had mentioned, you were a member of the Governor Edgar Fellow's program. Our guest last week, Senator Barrickman, also was. I know it's a really important program in the state of Illinois. Tell us about your experience as an Edgar Fellow, and then also if you could connect that to your first, job, after that, which was working for then Secretary of State Edgar in his office.
Absolutely. I was selected by, Jim Edgar and his committee to become a member of the Edgar Fellows. And I've been involved in a lot of leadership programs and associations and, that exist throughout the region and state, quite honestly. And to have an opportunity to network with other leaders within the Edgar Fellows organization and to be able to keep in close ties with Jim Edgar, who, as you mentioned, John, actually was my very first state job. In March of 1990, I went to work for Jim Edgar when he was Secretary of State as an office operations supervisor in Springfield for him. So, we have a lot of good memories that we share a couple times a year when we get together. And fortunately, I get to see him in Springfield periodically, especially when we're in session. And he's kind of mingling around, and so to speak, restaurants and stuff. So we developed a great relationship throughout the years, but have that opportunity to be an Edgar Fellow and to be able to network and get to know more people in state government has really been an honor for me to be able to be a part of.
Well, tell us about working for the Secretary of State, and I guess your initial job was in Springfield, and then ultimately you decided to come home. So talk about that sort of Springfield experience and then coming home.
Yes, when we actually sold our meatpacking company, of course I was fairly young at the time, and I said, okay, now what's Dale going to do now? So I had an opportunity to go to work for Secretary of State Edgar in Springfield. It was a tough decision to make, to leave Southern Illinois. Actually, I kept my home in Harrisburg. I'd moved from Dorado to Harrisburg in the interim of all that. But then I had an opportunity to go to work there. So I actually, being a little bit unsure, I just had an apartment in Springfield and went to work for him. And what an incredible experience that was to work for Secretary of State Jim Edgar. I was an operations supervisor, so I was right into a supervisory position. And everyone in the Edgar administration said, Dale, this is your land of opportunity in Springfield. Of course, he then became governor of the state of Illinois. And then I stayed on with Secretary of State George Ryan at the time. Then as a couple of years after that, I decided I wanted to come back home. So I had an opportunity to go to work I went to work for the Department of Corrections to come back home to beautiful Southern Illinois. So I always wondered what would have happened if I'd have stayed up there, but you never know. Things worked out pretty good.
Well, tell us about your various positions at the Department of Corrections. I know you worked at two different facilities at least, and tell us about that experience.
Yeah, I actually started at Vienna Correctional Center as what was called a stationary fireman. We oversaw the operation, the physical plan of the operation at Vienna Correctional Center. And then I started there in June of 1992. I worked there for several years and had an opportunity to promote to a stationary engineer position at Shawnee Correctional Center. And then I worked there a few years. And then I had an opportunity to become a chief engineer with the Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice at IYC Harrisburg here at home. So just really worked hard and was able to move up the ladder with these promotions. And then a knock on my door to want to know if I'd become interested in a banking position in business development. Business development had always been a passion of mine, especially growing up in business and with a meatpacking company and trying to market the company and network the company and try to grow the company. I really became engaged and enthusiastic about marketing. And it was always kind of strange as a kid. I always had a desire for some reason, a desire to be a banker. So it's when I had that knock on the door if I'd be interested in becoming a business development banker for People's National Bank. And I actually had first qualified to retire from the state. I wasn't planning on doing so because I really needed to work a few more years because our daughter was just starting college. Our son was in high school. But this opportunity became available for me, so I took advantage of it, and it was a great position to be in because I love business development.
Well, let's talk about jumping into politics. You were, I think, city commissioner first, and then mayor of Harrisburg. Tell us a little bit about your decision to enter public service.
Well, my first elected position was actually a four-year member of the Saline County Board. I was elected. Okay. I was elected in year 2000 to four-year term. And served that. It was a great experience. And then I just became more involved in life and family and business and banking and just everything that came along with that. And so I served that four-year term. And then I believe it was in the summer of 2013, I had an opportunity to become a commissioner for the city of Harrisburg when the then mayor, Eric Gregg, had to resign due to a conflict of interest in a state job that he had taken. They asked former Commissioner Ron Crank if he would fulfill his term as mayor of Harrisburg. Then Mayor Crank asked me if I would fulfill his term as a Harrisburg City Council member. So I graciously did. A great experience. And then unfortunately, Mayor Crank passed away with brain cancer. So that the council asked me to fulfill his term as mayor of Harrisburg. And then I was elected in April of 2015 to a four-year term as mayor of Harrisburg. So I was kind of part of the rebuilding process after the Leap Day tornado that then Mary Gregg was the mayor during that tornado catastrophe that we had. But I was kind of had an opportunity to take a lead to bring new businesses in Harrisburg and such and recruit new businesses and such. So incredible experience. And then a knock on my door as well. Want to know if I would consider a state run for the Illinois State Senate.
Well, let's talk about being mayor because we have a series called Meet the Mayor in which we have conversation with mayors, and it's a really interesting job. I mean, one of the kind of funny things that mayors tell that first of all, almost everyone says it's a part-time job, but it's not a part-time job. You're working really, really hard. Second, they kind of joke whenever I go out to the grocery store at night to get a gallon of milk, I come back 2 hours later after people have been bending my ear about various things. Tell us about just life as mayor of Harrisburg, and also what were you working on? What were the issues that you were trying to deal with?
Well, it was an incredible experience. There's no question it helped me catapult my, endeavors to become an Illinois state senator. But again, we had just gone through the Leap Day tornado, so we were in the rebuilding process in Harrisburg, and just had a lot of opportunity. I saw a lot of opportunity in Harrisburg, and I know one of the things that I like to put my hat on just a little bit. Several years ago, before I became mayor, the cinema in Harrisburg, that we had a four-room cinema in Harrisburg, and it actually closed down. So people were always saying, Mayor, can you get us a theater back? Can you get us a theater back? Can you get us a theater back? So I actually developed a relationship from the owners of Showplace Cinema out of Indiana. And so started kind of bringing them over and seeing a little bit about Harrisburg and introducing them to Harrisburg. And they had never invested in the state of Illinois ever. And they had, I believe at the time, 7 theaters in in Indiana and Kentucky. And so I'll never forget one day we were driving through Harrisburg, and the owner of Showplace, he looked at me, he goes, Mayor, he says, where are all these people coming through? I drove them by McDonald's, I drove them by Kroger, I drove them by Walmart. And I said, well, that's exactly what I've been telling you. Harrisburg is really kind of a hub for southeastern Illinois. We bring in thousands of people. Well, the next day they called me and says, we're coming to Harrisburg, Mayor. So, they're doing a great job today. In fact, it was one of their number one producing theaters at the time that they had. So, just things like that, just really promoting the city. And helping create opportunity and jobs. And that's what I've tried to do as a state senator as well.
Well, Senator, as I think of your background, I mean, I'm thinking about just kind of the unique training experience you've had. I mean, we've talked about it all, but city commissioner, mayor, or county board member, working in state government at the ground level to see how things actually work. I mean, it seems like if I were looking for a kind of a training, ideal training course for a state senator, your experience might be a pretty good way to start. I mean, we're going to talk about your Senate work in a second, but tell us about how all these experiences have kind of shaped your approach to being a state senator.
Well, my platform, and actually, if I could just tell you a little fun fact here, John. Actually, when I graduated high school at Dorado, of course, and I played football there. And after I graduated high school, the assistant football coach at the time, his name was Al Way. He and I really stayed really good, close friends. Well, in my early 20s, Coach Way nicknames me in my early 20s. And to this day, all these years later, he still acknowledges me by this nickname that he gave me about, probably close to 40 years ago, actually now. And that nickname is Senator Fowler. So it's a little fun fact that we had. But my platform, John, has always been, I grew up in community service. My parents were both philanthropic. That's one reason why I had the initiative to create my own 501c3 not-for-profit 20 years ago. As you mentioned in the intro, I was also actually president of the United Way of Southern Illinois and president of the United Way of Saline County. But my platform has always been to do everything I can to work with everyone, especially across the aisle, which is what I do try to do in the Illinois State Senate. I'm one of those guys that's always, I think that, I just appreciate everybody's service. I never go negative on anything. All I try to do is talk about how fortunate we are to live here in beautiful Southern Illinois, what we have to offer. I actually left twice. I left to go to Springfield. And actually in my early 20s, I actually spent 2 years in Southern California in the solar energy industry. So that's something that was kind of unique. And I had an opportunity to stay there, but I wanted to come back to beautiful Southern Illinois because we have so much to offer. That's really what I try to do is develop relationships with the entire General Assembly on both sides of the aisle. And I think we're seeing it work. I think that's one reason why we've had a lot of capital projects coming into Southern Illinois and more coming. because I'm just one of those that I appreciate everyone's service. I know what who the leadership is, and I know to get things done for Southern Illinois, I have to have those relationships and positive relationships to do so.
Well, tell us about your district. It is very, very big. Encompasses a pretty nice slice of Southern Illinois. Give us a little road trip of the 59th district.
Well, the 59th is one of the largest districts, geographic districts in the entire state of Illinois. Under the current map I'm under right now is 13, all our parcels of 13 counties. But now under the new map that goes into effect in January, it's all our parcels of 14 counties. So I've actually picked up one additional county, which is the eastern part of White County. So it's over 4,800 square miles, I believe it is now or will be. And it's you can be three places every night, 6 nights a week if you want to be. And I really work hard to get around and meet everyone, our mayors, county commissioners. I go into the schools. I have advisory councils. I have a student advisory council that I meet with students from all over the district twice a year. They actually just had one last week at SIU, where we had over 50 students from within the district that are chosen from their schools to be part of the student advisory council. We do mock legislation and really give them an inside perspective of what being a legislator is kind of like. And but it's such an honor to be able to. And I have tourism is growing in Southern Illinois. And under the new map, I have 20 Illinois Department of Natural Resource state parks, obviously far more than any other district in the entire state of Illinois. Obviously, and on top of that, the beautiful Shawnee National Forest, which is in my district. So we're just we have so many treasures here. And I've also created an initiative called Southern Illinois Treasures that you can actually go on my website, senatorfowler.com, and click on Southern Illinois Treasures. And we have video footage, voiceovers, drone footage of all the historical sites and state parks and national park that we have here in Southern Illinois. So it's fun to promote all the beauty that we have.
Great. Well, let's talk about some of the issues that you're working on. One that has gotten a lot of attention and is the Cairo Riverport project. A big, nice infusion of cash from the Rebuild Illinois program. I think about $40 million a year or two ago. How is that unfolding? And maybe more broadly, how did you get interested and what do you think it can accomplish?
Well, when I first became a member, and as you mentioned, I was elected 2016, sworn in January of 2017. And as I started really traveling around the 59th district in all the counties, and I had spent a little bit of time in Cairo years ago, but not a lot. But when I started going there, and I was introduced to this project that was actually created even before I came on board as a state senator. It was in the discussion stage, and there'd been a little bit of concept design work done, but the Port District just didn't have any money to take it to the level that it needed to go. And then I just started doing some research on how riverport transportation opportunities were growing in the entire nation. That we have the two mighty rivers, the Mississippi and Ohio, and how container transportation was growing, and how we can go straight to the Gulf of Mexico from the Mississippi River, completely lock free, and these new vessels, container vessels that were being manufactured, and really how the industry was growing. So I just kind of took a real interest in that and started spending a lot of time there and doing a lot of research and talking with the consultants, the environmentalists, the designers, the engineers. And so when there was $150 million actually allocated in the Illinois Rebuild Capital Bill, John, there was $150 million for ports within the entire state of Illinois. There's currently 19 ports within the state of Illinois with a $150 million line on them for improvements or new construction of ports. So I went to work to try to get some of those funds, and I sit down with the Governor Pritzker, on numerous occasions, and convinced him that this is a viable project, that we can actually turn in this port, turn it into the nation's hub for riverport transportation. And that doesn't come from me, John. That comes from the leaders in the maritime barge traffic business. That's coming straight from them. And so he designated $40 million to that out of that $150 million to go to Cairo for the construction. So the concept design is completed. Now it's kind of in the hands of the Army Corps of Engineers for the permitting process, which is very time consuming. The project continues to move forward. I believe there's like 28 permits for the Army Corps of Engineers. They're trying to work through those now. So it's been one of my top economic development projects. And then on top of that, it also instilled us an opportunity to build another port in actually Old Shawneetown, Illinois, that's going to offload fertilize, which will be in construction sooner than the Carroll port because it's an old coal loading dock that has already been permitted. So therefore, construction can start real soon. And that's another 240 plus jobs. The Carroll project's about 600 construction jobs. And then you have other projects on top of that. And then if I may add, under this new budget, there's also $1.5 million that's been dedicated to do a feasibility study for an additional port that exists in Metropolis, a dock that exists in Metropolis. So all we're trying to do is take advantage of the resources we have to offer here in beautiful Southern Illinois. And two of those resources are the Mississippi and Ohio River.
Well, in fact, the governor was on campus last August for an event before the DuQuoin Fair, and he was speaking to a group, and he gave you a shout out for your work on this project, just saying that this was sort of what Illinois needs. Constructive work across party lines, solving problems that actually can improve people's lives.
Yeah, and the governor, I so appreciate his support because he actually, in last year's State of the State, it was Zoom, of course, because of the pandemic. He actually talked about this port, about how this could be one of the biggest economic development projects Southern Illinois has seen in over a century. And that's what the professionals from Louisiana, Florida, all over the country are saying. In fact, just in container transportation opportunities alone, it's projected to triple by the year of 2030. So you're seeing, because barge transportation is the most economical form of transportation that there is for goods and products. And to be able to go straight to the Gulf of Mexico, lock free from the Mississippi is going to be huge. There's actually more traffic that goes through that floats by, more barges floats by the city of Cairo than goes through the Panama Canal. I've done a lot of research and I've heard a lot of data about this project, John. So fingers crossed. There's still a lot of work to do, but one day I can't wait to see it come to fruition.
Great. Well, another program that you're interested in, Senator, is called the Young Entrepreneurs, and I guess it's using a Department of Commerce program, but expanding it so it can it can be used for young people from the ages of 16 to 29. Tell a little bit about how you got interested in young entrepreneurs. I mean, obviously, as you tell your story about being involved in business and, kind of working from the day you were a small boy, but why kind of structure this program so it applies to young people?
Exactly. Yes, I was one of those young entrepreneurs, and just learned how to work hard and really try to grow your company, and that's what it takes. And working with my student advisory council and just being involved with youth as I am, and then with my foundation, and we really want to create opportunity for our youth. We want them to know that they can stay right here in beautiful Southern Illinois and raise a family and have a great career right here. Sometimes you need to get out a little bit to see the world, of course, such as what I did on 2 different occasions. But I kept. It's like Southern Illinois was a magnet to me. This is where I needed to be. This was my calling to be able to serve the people. But there's actually, a couple years ago, the Entrepreneurship Assistance Center legislation was passed, where there's going to be entrepreneur assistance centers throughout the state of Illinois. And those are still in the talking stage, but it is legislation that's going to come to fruition to be able to give entrepreneurs throughout Southern Illinois opportunity for educational training and workforce development stuff. One thing we noticed in this legislation that it did not include youth entrepreneurs. So I went in and filed legislation. It was Senate Bill 2984 that adds youth entrepreneurship to this legislation. So our youth can be involved in these entrepreneurship assistance centers and to be able to be educated. And one thing that we're really doing, working with SIU, our community colleges, our trade unions, with workforce development, job training, is we want these young people to know not just that we need them as a truck driver or an electrician or a welder, whatever it may be. We want them to know what their package could look like. what their salary range could be, what their benefits could be, what their insurance could be, what their cost of living could be here in Southern Illinois. And that's really the thing that we want to convey to them. And because we know, job training and workforce development is critical to Southern Illinois with all the projects we have going on, the ports, Walker's Bluff. We're getting really close to a possible takeover of the former Golconda Job Corps for workforce development. We've been working on that for a year and a half. We hope to be unveiling that really soon. So a lot of great opportunities. We need people trained because we do have a lot of jobs in Southern Illinois, and we're going to have a lot more really good paying jobs. And we want these young people to know that they can stay right here, attend our university, attend our community colleges, and have a great career right here in beautiful Southern Illinois.
Well, Senator, another regional quest that you're involved in is the DuQuoin State Fair. I know you believe that it should be considered on par with the Illinois State Fair in Springfield, and you've introduced legislation to make sure there's a little bit more stable and generous funding. Talk about the DuQuoin State Fair. It's important to the region and what you're hoping to do to strengthen it.
Right. It's an absolute economic driver to Southern Illinois. That do so many people, especially my colleagues from Chicago, that have been down here, and they hadn't been down here in a few years, of course, but they're excited to come back down here. They see the enthusiasm of the DuQuoin State Fair. They're seeing it revitalized. Couldn't be more excited for the DuQuoin State Fair. But one thing, and it's also the Illinois State Fair as well. But one thing that we noticed that the funds that were being generated, the revenues from the DuQuoin State Fair, was going into the county fair portal, so to speak. So we wanted to make sure that those funds, all the funds that were revenues generated from the DuQuoin State Fair, stayed solely to the DuQuoin State Fair and spent solely on the DuQuoin State Fair for new construction, for improvements. So we was able to pass that legislation, pass both chambers unanimously. So really excited about that. To be able to, those funds can be restricted now, and not only the DuQuoin State Fair, but the Illinois State Fair as well, to make sure that they're spent right here in Southern Illinois. They're generated here, and we want those funds to stay here.
So you're the top Republican on the Higher Education Committee. What are some of the things you want to do from that platform? And maybe if you could talk more broadly about SIU and not only its importance to the region economically, but just its importance to this whole area.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't be more. I know, SIU, even our community colleges, they've had their challenges, but I'm so excited about SIU. In fact, under the current map I'm in today, I just have a little small portion of southeastern Jackson County, which did not include the campus of SIU. But under the new map, I now have all the campus. In fact, all of Carbondale going all the way to Murfreesboro. In fact, a little bit of southern Murfreesboro. So I will be representing the campus solely as a state senator. But obviously, all these years I've been extremely involved in SIU. I felt like I've been representing it as well, along with Senator Bryant. But the opportunities we have there, to build a new communication building. To see the advancements at SIU, and to be able to really promote SIU, and talking really encouraging to me. And I'm going to go back to my student advisory council again real quickly. But 4 years ago, my initial student advisory council, I would ask the students, okay, raise your hand if you're going to college, because I was talking with juniors and seniors. They're the ones that qualified to be part of my council, selected by the schools. And, you get a large number of hands that would raise. And I would ask, how many are going to SIU? And at the time, very few were raising their hand. Now it's different. It's like half of my council now is going to SIU. So you're really seeing SIU really growing. I'm glad to see that. This administration is doing a great job. I meet with them all the time where we talk and sit down. And so I'm excited. And as you mentioned, I'm the minority spokesperson for higher education. So I've been extremely involved in that, and will continue to do so.
Well, Senator, we've just finished the spring legislative session, and I wonder if you could kind of give us a big picture sense of what you think was accomplished. I mean, there was work on, I know, crime legislation, a lot of talk about inflation, passed a budget that, generated some controversy, although I see where Moody's has just recently, just in the last day or two, boosted Illinois' credit. So talk both specifically about the budget, but then more broadly about, excuse me, the spring legislative session in Springfield.
Well, as you know, it was a very condensed session. As a rule, the legislative session wouldn't end till May 31st with a budget. Supposed to vote on a budget by May 31st, but due to the primary being pushed to June 28th, the session was scheduled to conclude April the 9th. And it did. It was about 3:30 in the morning when I walked out of the state capitol on April the 9th. And that was with we voted on, I think it was a 3,400 page budget that was sit on our desk kind of at the last minute. We did know a little bit about what was going to be in the budget. There were some amendments. There was the House version and then the Senate version. There was some good things in the budget for law enforcement, as an example, for education, for higher ed, for K through 12. Good things in the budget. There were some things in the budget that were quite controversial as well. And so it was a very difficult budget. I am encouraged with some of the things that are in the budget for Southern Illinois. And one thing that I did, John, as we led toward the vote of this budget, is I really communicated with the governor's office and also with my colleagues on the other side of the aisle about the budget and about trying to get more for Southern Illinois within the budget. And I think we were very successful. And I really appreciate those open lines of communication because, again, that's one thing I've really strived from day one when I was sworn in January of 2017 to have an open line of communication. If it's something I can support or if it's something I can't support, but to be able to sit down with administration, no matter who's in charge, and talk this through. I came in under the Rauner administration. Of course, now I'm within the Pritzker administration, and I've had the same platform with both administrations to let them know. I want them to hear from me if there's why I can or cannot support a form of legislation that they're advocating for. And I think that's really spoke volumes for me to be able to have those open lines, understandably, and to be able to bring things back to Southern Illinois.
Well, Senator, where do you think Illinois is right now? I mean, we went through a tough period during the Rauner years, lots of controversy, lots of 2 years of stalemate and so forth. Where do you think the state is now, and particularly in terms of fiscal policy? Do you think our fiscal situation has been stabilized in kind of a structural way? Some argue that we've, taken, huge advantage of this massive infusion of federal funds. And so we're a little bit on a sugar high that is not really sustainable. What is your sense of that?
Well, I think we're on a good, we're doing well with our revenues are growing. There's no question about that. Our revenues are growing. We're seeing that in the budget. It has been frustrating with some of the new spending that's been initiated in this budget. I feel like we need to curtail some of this new spending on some of these issues that are quite controversial on both sides of the aisle. And obviously, I have to be selfish for the 59th district that I represent. As I mentioned earlier, I have 20, and under the new map, I'll have 20 Illinois Department of Natural Resource state parks, and they are understaffed. And our state parks are growing. We're making more investments into our state parks. Almost every state park that I've had has had new investment going in because tourism is growing. But in Southern Illinois, like, it's unbelievable how well tourism is doing. And so I'm so proud of that. I think we have to designate our priorities in our spending. And I don't think we're doing a very good job of that. We're doing okay. Our backlog of bills. I have a great relationship with Comptroller Mendoza. She's doing a phenomenal job, her and her staff. We talk on the phone a lot with her. I do with her personally and as well with her staff. They're doing a great job paying back our backlog of bills, which is saving our taxpayers late fees, interest fees, millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. So I'm very proud of that. But we just really have to, really curtail our new spending, and we have to be cautious with our new spending moving forward.
Well, Senator, as you know, this is a political year. There's a governor's race that is heating up. I think there was a big event in Washington, Illinois last night with 5 of the 6 Republican candidates. Tell me your sense of the Republican primaries in June. First of all, there's 5 or 6 candidates. Have you endorsed anyone? And what is your general sense of the race for governor?
Yes, there's currently 5 candidates running for governor on the Republican ticket. I've served with 2 of those in the Illinois Senate. Currently serve with one of them. Served with the other one for my first 2 years in the Senate. So I have a great relationship with them. Know them quite well. Great people. And the other 3 candidates I really don't know well. I've met on just 1 or 2 different occasions, very briefly. So I don't know them as far as individuals or what their real platform is. You hear what their platform is, but I have, to answer your question though, I have not endorsed anyone, John, and I don't at this point. I don't plan on that. I try to stay out of primaries as much as possible. But unless I have just a real strong purpose, and I've really got to know that person really closely to know what their morals are, what their ethics are, and what their platform is. But this is going to be it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be this is going to be sneaking up on us. We're just a couple months away from actually we are 2 months away to the primary. So one thing I don't like, and my platform has always been from day one when I decided I was going to run for state senate, is that I would never be a negative campaigner. I would talk on my platform. I would talk on what I want to accomplish. And I would never speak negatively of my opponent. That's never been my style. And I've always adhered to that in the 2 elections I had previously. I've never one time mentioned my opponent or personally gone negative against my opponent. And, it was encouraging to me to receive a lot of feedback from people to say, thank you for your stance. Because my message to everyone is, wouldn't it be nice if you could win an election with a clean, honest, ethical, positive campaign, maybe set a precedence for other campaigns to not throw mud, not to be misleading. And that's just always been my style, John. That's the way I was raised. And I think, it's worked for me. I'm not saying maybe it doesn't work for others, but I think it could work for others.
Well, I wonder if you could give us an assessment of how you think Governor Pritzker has served. What do you think? What do you think the best thing he's done, and what are some areas that you've been frustrated or disappointed?
Well, there's been some things that has caused difficulty in, especially in my district. The $15 an hour minimum wage. I actually sat down with the governor. I think it was about 30 minutes prior to the vote of the $15 minimum wage. And as I talk, and as I mentioned, our open lines of communication, which I so appreciate with the governor. And I wanted him to, obviously he wanted me to support it, and I wanted to let him know why I couldn't support it. And as one thing is, I spend a lot of time in Chicago. Our daughter actually lives in Chicago, and I know several years ago you'd be walking through downtown Chicago, and I would actually catch myself looking for unoccupied storefronts, and I would say, "Come down to Southern Illinois, and let me show you the unoccupied storefronts." And the feedback I was getting from the business community in my district was just going to be, they felt like it's going to be devastating for them. So that's things like that were. Have been difficult, but also I so appreciate the fact that the governor's been very supportive of Southern Illinois. We go back to the $40 million in the Carroll Port, 11 in the Shawneetown port project that we're taking an old coal loading dock. It's going to be another public-private partnership such as the Carroll Port, and to be able to offload fertilize from old Shawneetown onto the Ohio River. And then the next phase will be possibly grain down the future. So one thing that's very encouraging, of that $150 million line item for ports throughout the state of Illinois, which I mentioned there are 19, the 59th district received $51.4 million of that $150 million. So we received in the one Senate district over 1/3 of all the Rebuild Illinois funds right here in Southern Illinois. That's because not only we deserve it, but we worked hard to go get it. And Governor Pritzker was very, very supportive of both those. Well, actually, I need to increase by another 1.5 because we got 1.5 for Metropolis too in the new budget. But he has mentioned that several times, and I talked with deputy governors as chief of staffs, and he said this is one project that he talks about more than any project in the state of Illinois. So I really appreciate that. And then, Walker's Bluff, the resort we're going to be building there, the gaming license that we had to go after, which he was very supportive of, and that was very difficult. It took a lot of time, but we got through there. That's going to be thousands of jobs, or going to be over 1,000 construction jobs, and then several hundred full and part-time jobs after that. So, and then some other things, hang on to your hat, because we're going to be announcing some more things here real soon. We hope to, John, for Southern Illinois. There's a lot of momentum going in Southern Illinois that we should be proud of.
Great. Senator, we've had a couple questions emailed in. The first, comes from Jim in Barrington, Illinois. And he's asking about the trend to make, he's wondering if there should be a law to make school board elections nonpartisan. And then he also raises the broader point about some of the contention and acrimony that's escalated in school board meetings and discussions. Obviously, it is completely contrary to the sort of themes of civility and respect that you've been talking about. But could you speak to that about just school board elections and whether you think they should be nonpartisan?
Oh, absolutely. I've always felt that school board elections should be nonpartisan, and down here in my district, most of them are. Obviously, some people know where they weigh on, when they go to the ballot, they know where certain members are on the political spectrum. But I appreciate school boards immensely. My father was a 33-year member of the El Dorado Board of Education, and he stayed on that until in his 80s because he wanted to stay long enough to see the new El Dorado High School built. And so that was school boards. I've seen what my father went through on school boards, but his passion for school boards, and we don't want to deter people from running on school boards, because we need good people on these school boards. Education is a number one priority, and always should be, both K through 12 and higher ed. But also our school boards, they should be, they should receive all the support that they deserve. And it's unfortunate when you see some of the negativity that goes into these school board meetings, and it's no wonder that sometimes it deters certain people from wanting to be on a school board, because as there's no salary on a school board, and sometimes the upside of that can be challenging. But we have to give them the full support, and I work closely with all our school boards within my district, and our administrators and superintendents.
Kevin from Center Square asked about the Safety Act that the Democrats passed a year or two ago, and how has that affected crime enforcement in Southern Illinois?
It has. It may not be quite as bad as in the suburbs and in the city of Chicago, but it's been very frustrating to see our law enforcement officers retire early. Some of our sheriffs retire early. Our students not wanting to go into the law enforcement field, and I think what we've seen is when this criminal justice legislation was passed into law, the fact that a lot of the Democrats saw that some of the issues that they may have not have seen in the fine print of the legislation, so they see that there's some repeals that need to be made. There's more repeals. We have to give our law enforcement officers all the respect that they deserve, and give them the support that they deserve. And because I so appreciate and see what they go through. And that's one thing. Every time I see one, I always acknowledge them. Hey, stay safe out there. Thank you for what you're doing. Keep your head up. And I think because growing up, you either wanted to be a fireman or a police officer. And unfortunately, we're not seeing that like we did when we were growing up, or when I was growing up. So we want to instill the support that they need. And Southern Illinois is no different. We see crime, drugs, but these guys are out there working their tails off each and every day. And actually, they work so hard. I saw one of our county sheriff cutting the grass at the courthouse because he was doing his part to try to make Southern Illinois better, and his county better. But there's still a lot of work to do on some of the repeals for the Safety Act. There's no question about that, and we're going to continue to be an advocate for that.
Well, Senator, you obviously are a very, very hardworking man. I wonder how you like to relax. How do you unwind?
Good question. John, growing up in community service and parents that were very philanthropic, I created a foundation I spent a lot of time on. I created it actually 20 years ago when I was with the United Way, a Clothes for Kids program where I had a memory of growing up in this elementary school in El Dorado, Hillcrest Elementary School, about how a little brother and sister were treated because they didn't have proper apparel to wear to school. And that memory had always been embedded in me. And 20 years ago, I decided I wanted to raise a little bit of money, and that we did it through the umbrella of the United Way. Thankfully, they were great to work with. And all I really wanted to do was be able to go back to elementary school and walk in there and tell the teachers that we have funds to be able to supply a complete new wardrobe to a child that maybe not could afford new clothes, 3 or 4 pair of jeans, 3 or 4 shirts, socks, shoes, underwear, everything, and did that. And that first year we went into that elementary school and helped about 6 kids. Now fast forward 20 years later, we're helping over 600 kids throughout all of Southern Illinois to have a new opportunity of new wardrobe. It's through we created our own 501c3 not-for-profit called the Fowler Bonham Foundation. And then 4 years ago, created another initiative called Heaven's Kitchen. I've always felt if a child's properly clothed and properly fed, they're going to have a better chance in life. So 4 years ago, we opened up our first Heaven's Kitchen in Harrisburg. And then 3 years ago, we opened up our second one in Marion. And we create an atmosphere where the people come, they come in and we greet them. We sit them at the table. We talk with them. We talk about different services might be available. We entertain them with music. So it's but I guess to answer your question, I spend a lot of time trying to help children and create opportunity. And I'll never forget, I'll close with this about my foundation, John, is the first year we 20 years ago when we clothed the very first child, the teacher called me and said, Dale, because I went into all the schools and talked to the teachers privately about what we'd done. The first school was the elementary school, that we have these funds, and they're the teachers that know the children. Obviously it's a confidential referral program, but I'll never forget the teacher after that conversation. The teacher called me and said, Dale, just like the story you told me about the little girl, and I'll just use the name Little Sally as an example. She said, same story. Got this little girl, Little Sally. She, bless her heart, sweetest girl and sweetest little thing in the world, but wears the same clothes each and every day. Her family, they had lost their jobs and they were really struggling. And so we went and bought Little Sally all of her new clothes that she needed. And a couple of days later, the teacher calls me and said, Dale, I got to tell you about Little Sally. First day she came in with her new shoes and clothes on, came running up to my desk, said, teacher, look at my new shoes, look at my new clothes, and that just really got us going right here, John. And that's one reason why the communities throughout all of Southern Illinois are supporting what we do. They see firsthand the difference it's making in these children's lives. And that's what really life's all about. One thing my mother told me as a young person, she said to me and my 2 sisters, I'll never forget this statement she made. She said, kids, what you do for yourself in life is not as important as what you do for others. And that's kind of where I spend my time, John. I used to play a lot of golf. When I grew up playing golf a little bit with my father, he'd take me to the golf course. I played high school golf and junior college golf, but don't do much of that anymore because I'm just so devoted to that's my passion. I guess that's my pastime, so to speak, is doing what I can to help others. And as long as the good Lord keeps me in this position, and here on earth, I'm going to continue to do that.
Great. Well, Senator, it's really been a delight to visit with you and just hear about your great work, both in public service and philanthropy. It's really an inspiring story. And again, thank you for all your work for SIU. I know people here are very grateful. And when circumstances allow and you're passing through Carbondale, please swing by the Institute and say hello to us. We really applaud all the great work you're doing.
Thank you. It's an honor. It's an honor to represent the university, and I'm there with the chancellor and his administration quite a bit. I've been to the Institute on a few different occasions, and I'll get back there real soon. I travel around, especially now that we're out of session. I'm back in district. I'm traveling all over my district, meeting with as many people as I can. It's a real honor to be able to be in this position, John. I tell you, that's something I take very seriously. As my coach told me when in my early 20s, when he nicknamed me Senator Fowler, after I talked to my family that I told him I was going to take a run at it, he's the next person that I called. Said, "Hey, Coach, guess what I'm getting ready to do?" He said, "I told you so." But it's a real honor. Thank you for what you all do, and I've really enjoyed this time with you all today.
Great. Thank you so much, Senator. And thanks to all you for watching another edition of our series, Understanding Our New World. We'll have a video of this interview on our website tomorrow. Please show it to family and friends. And thank you for supporting the Institute and keeping the memory of Paul Simon alive and well. Thanks so much.